Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. I'm SirAshtown and joining me today is Jebas from Ink Thieves. We're starting here in the top four pretty quick. We're about to get started. The players are shuffling up right now, so let's on over to match one. Really excited to see how these two players do. Luna versus Jeremiah. We have a Amber Steel versus Jeremiah, who we've seen on camera already with Ruby Sapphire.
Should be a good match. I would assume that Jeremiah will be favored, but it does look like because Luna is in second seed here, they do get to start it off going first, so that does tip the scales a little bit. Starts off on Daisy Duck, which is certainly one of the best starters that you can have against this Sapphire Ruby, given that it is one of the more aggressive things possible.
While this match is going on here, our other feature match featuring our community pro Kindle, aka No I'm Not, is going up against B DeCandio. So we have a Ruby Amethyst versus a Amber Steel list. Turn to Mr. Smee from Luna here. Really aggressive start from Luna, trying to get underneath this Ruby Sapphire list. Trying to gain as much lore as they can before Jeremiah can get to 5, 6, ink in his inkwell to play cards that can answer some of these low-cost characters. Maybe these Grandma Talas with their 3/3s can try to help later on turn 4. Maybe turn 3, actually.
Alright, so one-drop item into Tipo. Not a popsicle, but still an okay start. The Vital Sphere can actually be used to challenge something like, say, the Smee in combination with the Tipo. Now, Doc is a pretty powerful card here. Not only is it a 2-lore quester, but it also gives you access to an additional usable discount, which functionally allows you to have 5 ink next turn instead of 4. So a little bit of ramping from the Amber side. We'll see if there's something like a Brawl coming down. It may actually target the Dock over something like the Daisy Duck. I could see a world where it's ink something, use the Vital Sphere to challenge the Smee with your Tipo, and then maybe Brawl the Dock. That could be an interesting line. See what they've got. I do see a Maui, as well as a big Sisu. Opts to play Explore the Azurite Sea, draws a card, and allows for an additional ink drop this turn, which will get them closer to the actual removals. That takes out the Daisy Duck. So Doc is still in there, but this gets us a lot closer to actually casting some of those bigger cards in hand. Now it looks like we have Big Sisu, which can actually be shifted next turn. Alright, so we'll see what's coming down from Luna here. In the tank a little bit, thinking about it.
Does decide to let the Storm Rage on the Sisu.
So I think that's a really strong line here. You know, I believe that the consideration was, do we try to clear up the board, which keeps our characters a little bit safer, or just not worry about it? I think they were considering actually singing with Doc here versus just, you know, questing, because they had the Chenpo, which just got inked. Chenpo being a 5-drop. What this does is it still puts, you know, the 6 pressure on board, but it removes the ability to shift the Sisu. You know, with this CC right here being taken out, that shift line with the 6 is no longer available, so there isn't a huge threat to your whole board getting taken out this turn. So we're able to secure even more lore pressure, especially from the Smee. Now, Smee, already taking 2 damage, does not necessarily have the ability to quest too much more, but, you know, if we're able to get 6 lore out of it, that's a lot from a single card.
I like that play a lot, just like you were saying, because preventing the shift Sisu protects everything else that your game plan is trying to do. We really see that Jeremiah has to find some ways to answer these characters that are really getting Luna up very quickly.
Now, an unfortunate situation for Jeremiah here. So this Vitalosphere is a very defensive card that you can use in combination with something like the Flabbersham. You know, being a 1/6, gets it an extra 3. It could have crashed in, taken out the Doc or the Smee. But, you know, since Vitalosphere gives Rush, without that, because we don't have any other items, they just need to draw cards. So, Luna's all the way up to 14 already. That is not a great spot. Gantu here, you know, I'm fully expecting a Be Prepared. You know, Smee bites the bullet, collected the 6, and moved on. I am fully expecting a Be Prepared here. So we're questing, gaining the 1. Yeah, it looks pretty likely. So Gantu not long for this world, unfortunately. And just passes it back. So now we're at 14. We don't feel super safe, even still. But that definitely is a much better position with an empty board than what we were in previously. Plays the big Sisu, but the Calhoun does live. Takes out the Daisy, though, so not a ton of lore pressure. Inkstock plays Mufasa. Just sends it back, because the quest from the Calhoun is not that exciting. Especially when it can just be eaten by basically anything. And this does play around any sort of Beaking Undisputed or Tremaine that Jeremiah may or may not be playing to protect this Mufasa. We can get the lore in next turn. I think that's a-okay. Thinks a dragon, plays a dragon. Dragon getting Mufasa. We'll see what we flip off the top here. It is a whiff. It actually hit a strength, which is a bit problematic. Now, this is an interesting decision point, because if we quest with this to gain 3, go to 5, and Luna rips a spell that can deal any damage, then all of a sudden we can use that to damage the Sisu and then cash in with the Calhoun, but we didn't hit it. Just rips a Lawrence. Another big Sisu for Jeremiah in hand. Doesn't do anything on this board because there's a 4/4 and a 3/2, so we'll see if they want to play it over the dime. I would doubt it. Probably seeing a lucky dime into gain 8 here. Go up to 13, perhaps.
Yeah, lucky dime here, trying to race out.
Are we just not questing with the Sisu? Possible. Interesting. Suppose if they want to take out the dragon, they'll have to trade in with both of their characters, which seems pretty unlikely. And with the only other resource that we have available is, you know, the additional copy of Sisu, trying to preserve our ability for our lucky dime to gain as much lore as possible.
They're taking a quick pause. He may be thinking, maybe we can sneak a quick peek at our second feature match featuring Kindle and B to Candio. Let's see where they're at here. Looks like Candio took game 1.
His first seed, so was on the play. We'll maybe try to catch one of those games here. Quests out, goes to 17. Doesn't play the card in hand.
Could be looking for maybe a double play on the turn. but having a big Sisu in hand, like we know Jeremiah does, that can take out whatever low drops it may be if it's not another Lawrence or Calhoun.
Another Maleficent Dragon. Basically just haymakers every single turn here. Reading Calhoun again. Now, I would fully expect this Dragon to take out the Lawrence and the Sisu to take out Calhoun and just gain 3. Not. Leaves the Lawrence in play. Oh, we got the Dragon. We can use that to take it out. And scoops it up. Recognizes that there's enough lore in play that we can't... No matter what card we play, it won't be enough to stop what they're doing, so...
And a double Dragon with Sisu on board. Doesn't know there's Sisu in hand, but that's so much lore and a lot of powerful challengers. I mean, going up to 17, that is pretty quick, but Jeremiah takes it here in the top 4 for game 1. We'll see if Luna can come back. While they're getting shuffled and getting set, let's hop on over to match 2 to see if we can just watch the beginning of Be Candio versus No I'm Not. And again, No I'm Not is our community voted pro. That means that all of his matches will be recorded and posted to our YouTube later on this week. So don't worry, if we miss any of his games, you will get to see them later on this week. No I'm Not here, bouncing back a card, able to play out a snake, a great challenger into a lot of Be Candio's cards.
Now, chat is correct. While card like Daisy Duck puts the card on bottom if it is a miss, Mufasa is supposed to leave it on top. Now, I don't know if that would have swayed the outcome of that, but it would have potentially allowed them to use Calhoun plus that to take out the Sisu. So, an interesting misplay that both of our opponents missed. When there are so many cards that are seeing play, especially sometimes in the same deck, that's easy enough to make that mistake. You know, you look at Daisy all day, and, you know, that makes sense. Alright, Candio cashes in the Calhoun for 2, taking out the snake. Lawrence staring down a Sisu here. Alright, draws a rabbit, so a pretty standard run out that I would expect so far here. Lawrence deals a little bit of damage to the Sisu, singing a Storm here. And then my assumption is this Happy is going to crash into it, or if we have another song, we'll probably use that to take out the Sisu.
We're going to head on over back to our match 1 with Luna and Jeremiah again. No I'm Not and DeCandio, a great matchup. Would be really great to see all the way through, but you will get the chance to later on this week.
Yeah, all of Kendall's games are being recorded and will be available as well, so certainly aren't truly missing out here. So Luna starts it off on the play, plays a Daisy Duck, very good run out, into Ursula, which I don't necessarily know if is the best card in this matchup, but it does give us another singer that's available. It is a 1/4, which can be good in combination with something like a Rapunzel later, get a little bit of damage on it.
Again, we want to thank Charlie's Collectible Show for hosting today's tournament. Great to be here in Mountain, Georgia for their 10K. Following this, top 8 and finals, there's going to be a 2K tournament for you to watch, so stick around.
Alright, Popsicle into Tipo, pretty standard opening for what you would hope for out of Sapphire Ruby. Ink's a strength, not at its best in this matchup. And plays Lawrence, which is a card that is very powerful here. Lawrence generally dodges the majority of the removal without popsicles, and we just saw a popsicle, or sorry, not a popsicle, an ice block rather, and we just saw an ice block get shipped right to the bottom off of that daisy, so don't know how many they're running. A lot of these lists run, 2, 3. I've seen a few run 4, but it is harder and harder to fit them in with all the uninkables.
So he's going to be inking this Maleficent Dragon. Did a lot for him during the first game.
Well, did have an ice block anyway. Ice block into the human Sisu, getting rid of the Daisy Duck here. That's, I assume, has been a very common play that's been happening this weekend with this deck to sort of keep up with a lot of these more aggressive strategies, especially leading into the big Sisu as a shift. It would not surprise me if this Sisu is going to get targeted with some sort of removal spell prior to 6 ink being available, likely trying to shut down that shift available. So we got Pluto. Pluto being a 5/5 since it is undamaged currently. It is generally a 5/5 in this a lot. At least as long as your opponent doesn't smash into it with this Tipo perhaps, or this human Sisu. Now, if we have something like a Maui, I would imagine that is going to happen. Though you could shrink it with the ice block, and then that sort of combination could work as well. Just opts for Flabbersham to draw some cards. Keeping those resources on, and just accepting that, our opponent's going to gain a little bit of lore. They played a bodyguard this turn. Nothing we can do about it, but we can try to set up for the future. Has this Tipo dealing 1 damage to Pluto. Interesting.
Maybe he just wanted to get prepared for maybe his follow-up play in the next turn.
That certainly is possible. Now, not what I would have expected to happen here. If you leave the Tipo in play, rather than doing that now, Rapunzel isn't an option. Now, it could be a bait, right? So, if working under the assumption that they don't have a song, then if you take that line, you encourage them to play the Rapunzel to heal it, and then you slam your Shift Sisu, and then you can take it all out that way. Because you could still use this Flabbersham to crash into the Pluto, shrink it back to 1/5, and then the big Sisu sort of just clears up the whole board. But that Ursula, something that I criticized a little bit earlier as not as common of a play on turn 2, was able to sing that strength and take out that shift line, which is something I was expecting, but maybe not that way. Allowed us to develop another threat in the Daisy. This one's looking pretty bad for Jeremiah. Realistically, even if he's able to stabilize next turn with something like a Be Prepared, which I believe is in hand, Luna's already going to be gaining, another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potentially next turn, going all the way up to 17. It's not a very safe number. Decides to take out both the Pluto and the Daisy, so because Pluto had a damage on it, it was just a 1/5 still. Uses another human Sisu plus the Brawl in combination to actually take out both of those. Not a lot of cards in hand for Luna. Not necessarily overcommitted to the board, but Jeremiah's had a lot of targeted removal in combination with something like the Flabbersham. I see. Yep. Deals 1 damage, so the Ursula likely has a damage on it. Into the Flabbersham. Yep, there we go.
Yeah,
and
I like
questing
that.
for 2.
It keeps him off of the ability to use Ice Block with questing with Flabbersham from drawing more. Only had that 1 card in hand.
Yeah, limiting the resources, especially when you're this tight. And like this Lawrence is a very powerful card. It quests pretty aggressively, and it's big, right? Lawrence representing 2 lore a turn, but it's a 4/4 right now. You're trying to minimize the amount of answers that your opponent has to be able to deal with what you're doing.
It's another Brawl.
Now, one thing that they can do is challenge Lawrence and then brawl it, because Lawrence becomes a 0-4. So, generally, I would say that these characters don't have a huge downside. They're just big characters, a 4-4 for 3. Pluto's a 5-5 for 4. Incidental damage from small characters such as Tipo, such as the human Sisu, those kind of things, are very possible, and that's what we're seeing here, is these little characters that came in already did something, were able to just slam in, get that damage, shrink it, and then now the removal spells that care about strength are able to still do something. So unfortunately, I believe that Luna's in top deck mode, and if there is a large answer to Gantu, whether that's Dragon or Be Prepared here, yeah, we have exactly 9, Dragoning the Gantu. Ursula can still take us up to 15, but that is not a great place to be. Mufasa's a good pickup here, though. Up to 15. Now, Mufasa, assuming that it doesn't whiff again, can give us a lot of legs here. Oh, we'll see what this does. Shrinks the Mufasa. What does it flip? Flips into a Pete, which is likely going to be taken out with the dragon. No. Wow, that is really greedy. Maybe not greedy necessarily, but it is very aggressive, perhaps, to quest for 2 instead of just challenging here. I think I would have just taken the free removal on Pete now rather than waiting. Though maybe not having the damage on it is something that's a consideration.
Let's go up to 16. Quest with a Pete.
16 into an Ursula, yeah. Maybe 16 is a safe enough number that they're not worried about it. Runs out our Grammatala here.
Yeah, here's this Shield of Virtue. Can help you untap your characters and challenge additionally, or quest and then be able to challenge.
Also lets you keep your characters safe. I would expect to see either an untap into a challenge, which it looks like we did do. So with the Ice Block, it's only 2 damage, or potentially even just untapping Sisu, but I think challenging now is fine. Again, I'm surprised that they didn't do that earlier, but I don't know if it really matters that much. Now, Gantu is a bit of a problem. Jeremiah has exactly 1 turn to deal with that Gantu, or this is just game.
Yeah, Gantu, great drop here, and something we talked about earlier in the tournament, that Gantu can really close out games if there's not an answer to him.
That was a Flaversham, so that's a couple of redraws. Unfortunately, there's a limited amount of cards that can remove the Gantu at this point. I think we're going to see a Visions looking for a Be Prepared to Sing, which will wipe the board so that they live, of course. However, then that's their whole board as well, all their aggression that they put out here.
You could...
I don't see a Be Prepared. I think that's this game. They're going to go to a game 3.
Wow.
They have 1 redraw. They can pick up the C's, I believe, and use that to draw 1 card.
Yeah, Gantu really showing...
And it is a Maui Shark. Maui Shark is not a Be Prepared. Yeah, that's why the Gantu's in the deck, right? It says a Windmill Slam just gains 4. That's pretty big.
Yeah, Gantu doing a great job here of cleaning up. I mean, we were at that top deck mode with Luna. I mean, he had some good pulls from the Mufasa, Gantu, so great job with being able to find those cards when he needed them. Really, that's great. We're going to head on over to our match 2, see where DeCandio and No I'm Not are.
This is a precarious position, it looks like. DeCandio's put a lot of questing power on the board, and this untapped Daisy is threatening to just finish the game right here. I don't see a Be Prepared in hand.
Wow, DeCandio 18. I mean,
I think he's empty-handed as well, so this is... Do you have it?
gonna need every bit of challenging power he has.
Interesting. Okay. So we got this Daisy Duck here.
Maybe a brawl?
Probably a Tremaine, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Needs to start questing.
Alright, this is an interesting spot to be in. Untapped Pluto. Pluto questing for 1, not 2. But that is still getting us a little bit closer to the finish line. I don't believe that there's a Lilo in the bin for DeCandio, so it's pretty much just whatever's on top, we slam it and make it their problem. No, I'm not Conquest 4-5 here, which is most likely, I mean, we're just kind of looking to close out the game as much as we can. I assume that he's figuring out, how do I get the most lore on the field to try and actually finish out this game? Goes with the 12. Honestly, DeCandio may not be able to close out this game if No I'm Not is able to play enough lore. Even challenging with the Pluto on the Tremaine may not be enough to... Okay, we're just gonna replay the Tremaine after inking here. Bounce both of the snakes, replay the snakes to untap them, and then play the Tremaine. So this is only 2, 4, 5, 6 lore. But a goat bounce goat will still finish this, I believe. Or double goat. Or a white rose and a goat. Or a white rose and a bounce. How about a rabbit? Alright, likely we're going to see just questing with Genie if we don't have the white rose or the goat here. Elsa will do it, yeah. Elsa trade off, quest out, and then this game is over. Okay, so we'll jump back to our main match here, and we'll see where they are at.
Now again, with our community pro being Kindle, we will see all of his matches later on this week. So don't worry, you will get to see No I'm Not versus DeCandio on our YouTube 20 Lore Pro.
Alright, catching us up here, looks like Jeremiah Ice Block turn 1, Tipo 2 into Flaversham on 3. Facing down also a very strong start of Daisy into Smee. So both players having nearly ideal openings for what they would expect. Tipo scooping in one lore where they can get it. Generally pretty safe. We'll see what Luna's going to do here. Ink's a strength. Plays the Doc. Now, Doc does enable an early Gantu, which, as we saw last game, Gantu being one of the more impactful cards in this matchup. Talked about it earlier a little bit, where Ruby just does not have a great answer to the 4 strength compared to some of the things like Smee at 3 strength. Because they need an ice block in combination with another card, or 2 ice blocks even, to get it down to brawl range. So it is a little bit safer than what some of the other cards might be, just because of the benefit of that 1 additional strength. And the willpower on it being 3 really doesn't matter that much against Ruby Sapphire. You know, against the steel decks it does. There's plenty of removal that can sort of chip away at it, and then the 3 becomes more relevant. But in this matchup, this may as well be a 4-1. It functions about the same a lot of times. So if it is an early Gantu, that could threaten a lot of lore. And we're already looking to come in for quite a bit. Runs out that ice block. I wouldn't be shocked if we see Flaversham maybe questing and popping that popsicle.
Yeah, I like that line just because Jeremiah, if he doesn't already have the answers in hand, needs to get there because once those cards hit the board, if there is a Gantu, it's a lot of questing.
I believe that there's 4 cards left in hand. No, there's only 3. So it's hand Sisu, the big Sisu, and a Lucky Dime. So not awesome cards here, so I would expect to draw 3. Because there's not really much that you're going to be threatening with what's already in hand. We need something else.
Does quest with this Flavor Sham, choosing to pop the Popsicle, drawing 2. Okay, I was trying to think of how many times he's inked. So it looks like he did 2 Azeroth Seas, and then he inked return.
Okay. Alright, we send it back. They were just confirming that they have made sure that we didn't over-ink here, which we have not. This sets them up to be able to do the big Sisu next turn, which will clean up most of the board. Now, the Smee normally would be somewhat safe against Sisu, but being at only 3, that ice block is going to be able to shrink it, making it vulnerable, or the Tipo can just crash in and take it out. So the Smee will likely not be long for this world either. Now, this is going to be a pretty important turn, so we sing and take out the Tipo to draw another card. So this dock, I have not seen quest at all from Luna. But if we're not looking to really push any particular additional big card, like a Gantu, makes sense. Utilize the singing to get an additional spell in one turn. Okay, so we saw this earlier where it's, sort of do a little bit of damage, Zeus the Flaversham, so that we can actually stop some of that additional card draw. Now Smee should be at 2, and then we'll see what the follow-up is. I would expect, if there's enough ink here, that this big Sisu is going to come down and take out the majority of the board, all of it with the ice block.
Does exactly that. Able to use this Sisu. Now he's got a great quester here and challenger. We're looking at 8-3 here. Follow up with the play of Doc and Daisy from Luna.
A decent follow-up here. Jeremiah has a decent amount of cards in hand, really doing just the single spell a turn allows you to keep a lot of resources in hand, certainly. Plays a hand Sisu and a Brawl, so has drawn very well removal-wise and taken out pretty much everything that Luna's been able to present. Now their hand appears to be a lot of removal, which is not really where you want to be in this deck, at least in this matchup.
Yeah, that was some great lines from Jeremiah. Just being able to use the big Sisu with the ice block, taking out everything, following it up with that human Sisu. I mean, everything had value. Everything was just at an advantage there.
So Sisu to Doc discarding the mostly useless Storm here, drawing a card. The Dime comes down, likely looking to gain 3. So gain 7 goes up to 13. That is representing lethal already. Sisu, the big one especially, really does close out games quite quickly, especially with Lucky Dime. This is almost going to force Luna to have to trade everything that we've got into that Sisu, because we just can't let them win next turn. That's just not it. Not a good place to be. That Dime is pretty rough. Yep, double trade into the Sisu. Play out a Pluto, so a 5/5. Really not the most exciting card. Being on 8, facing down a Lucky Dime, almost anything that your opponent does is just better than what you're doing. Alright, how far I'll go to look at 2 cards. Now, there is a shield and a dragon. Now, my assumption is we get rid of the shield, keep that dragon so that next turn we can remove whatever problem, and we gain an extra 2. We're already at 15. I would say that this is one for Jeremiah, which means likely blue red is going on to the finals. Yeah, Calhoun into that is not it. How much ink do we have? We got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's Dragon plus. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we quest with Sisu and just gain 2 here and then be prepared. Because we know that just locks up the game.
Yeah, then whatever they play the next turn, you just Maleficent Dragon, then you get to activate your dime. I mean, yeah, it's...
I think the safest play is to do it that way, to make sure that, you know, there's nothing that your opponent can do then to stop you from just winning the game with basically any character. No, they're just gonna play the dragon now. Dragon taking out Calhoun, questing for 1.
Let's see, doesn't...
Just says go, because this represents lethal anyway. I think this is fine. It forced them to have a Zeus or whatever. They don't have it. So Jeremiah still wins. I think all roads kind of lead to Rome there. So let's go ahead and switch over to the other match, and we'll see where they're at.
Congratulations to Jeremiah for that win, getting into the finals.
All right, this is a pretty close game so far. Not much has happened. It looks like, you know, an early Cindy followed by a Piglet and a Smee, all of which were sort of answered by, you know, your opponent's things trading in. Not a big surprise there. And then now we're on turn 4. Double Lilo from DeCandio. That is an interesting run out here, because even if Noam not is able to clear those Lilos, you can just keep putting him back in play. Now, Sisu having 4 willpower does, you know, give a lot of opportunity to do that, but there's a Broom as a follow-up. Now, Broom does not have the ability to challenge those Lilos very well, being a 1-2. Here's a Piglet and a Strength Sang from the Cindy, taking out the Sisu. This is rough for our chosen pro. No, I'm not. I would say that this is going to be a rough one for him.
Yeah, DeCandio here just representing so much lore on the board. These double Lilos and the Piglet.
Takes out the Piglet, but man, double Lilo, still 5 on the board.
Even if they get taken out, they're going to be able to come back. I mean, that's a lot of lore to gain this turn.
Well, it just forces... No, I'm not here to remove all these Lilos basically for the rest of forever. And we go up to 13 here. And play a Pete. I think DeCandio was likely considering not playing Pete here and waiting until the next turn, but I think it's too costly to just wait. It does limit like additional card draw here, potentially. But I think you just have to run out the Pete just to get another body on the board now as opposed to later. Because even if, let's hypothetically imagine that this Fox takes out this other Lilo, DeCandio might just put both of them back into play and then Pete into the Fox. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cindy gets taken out over the Lilo as a more permanent removal. Now, I would assume that No, I'm not is pretty familiar with DeCandio's list. And would likely know... I don't believe that DeCandio's on any of the much larger, like, big Cindy's.
Yeah, this is a tough call, and both of these players very knowledgeable, like you're saying, Jebas. They...
Yeah, so he does...
through the outs.
He does opt to take out the Cindy, which will let DeCandio go up to 16. Does... I think opt to put the other Lilo into play, or at least he's considering it. I would, especially with no cards in hand. Doc would be the ideal draw here, probably. Doc, or even possibly just another Lilo would be pretty crazy. There are a lot of cards that DeCandio can't cast with 2.
I don't even know if he's taken a peek at it yet, has he? Okay, let the storm.
Okay. Sing, draw a card. Play, Smee, jam. Alright, go. This is your problem now. This is representing lethal. There's a lot of lore pressure in play, and these Lilos are just extra cards every time. You know, normally the downside of coming into play exerted is a pretty big downside, but if you're this far ahead, you know, taking out those Lilos with your characters is a real cost. Kendall just does not have enough bodies to continuously challenge these Lilos and take them off the field. And I don't know if with 5 there's really enough cards in this deck that can actually fight this. You know, we could, hypothetically Ink, do, you know, take out the Smee with maybe a Medusa? Could be okay, but yeah, it's just not it. You know, they can take out 1, but it's just not enough, and I don't know if even the Be Prepared is going to be good, because Be Prepared, you just immediately follow it up with Lilo, and it's the double Lilo is just too much. Now, it could have been double Piglet, and that probably would have been good enough too, but...
Yeah, exactly, but those Lilos being able to come back like that anytime, I mean, congratulations here to DeCandio on beating our community pro, which everyone chose at the Toy and Lore Pro Discord. They voted this past week for No I'm Not to be that pro. Congratulations to DeCandio. You will get to be able to see all of No I'm Not's matches later on this week. So congratulations to DeCandio on making it into the finals. This should be Jeremiah versus DeCandio, a Ruby Sapphire versus Amber Steel. What do you think on that matchup and these players who we've seen several times in the tournament, Jebas?
I mean, in general, I would say that, you know, Ruby Sapphire is favored into the majority of, you know, like the Rapunzel decks in general, just because Rapunzel typically doesn't get a lot of value, and that's one of the bigger card draw engines available. And we got Doc now, so that helps a little bit. But I know that DeCandio's battled against Red Blue, I think, 3 or 4 times already this weekend, and we see where he's at. It's the reigning champ, so can we do a back-to-back?
I mean, I'm excited to see it. He won the last 10K, you're right. Coming here, defending his title well, making it into the finals again. We're going to see if maybe a new player to the table can do well in Jeremiah. We want to thank everyone for coming here today to Charlie's Collectible Show, for watching this 10K tournament. We're excited for the finals. A couple of sponsor just shout outs to our partners who work alongside us at 20 Lore Pro, with GFQ Underground, who printed those amazing mats that you saw in today's match, along with Diamond Ink Apparel, who did the artwork for those mats. Thank you to both of you for partnering with 20 Lore Pro. After today's tournament, there will be a 2K tournament. We will be doing that immediately after the 10K coverage, so stick around on our YouTube. Thank you for joining us here today, and we will see you.